Hi, welcome back to the second episode of this series on how to start strength training for beginners 2024 edition. If you haven't seen the first part, stop this video, watch the previous release, like it, and come back for more. Alright, the first full body workout was kind of rigid in terms of the layout, but Session B takes into account gender preferences when it comes to working specific body parts. Before I dive into the workouts, I would like to clarify what this nomenclature means for those of you who aren't really familiar with the typical gym lingo. Next to the name of each exercise there is a number, which indicates the set count. A set is a collection of repetitions you perform for a given exercise before you stop. In the example on the screen, you would complete 2 sets of dips for 5 to 8 reps. If you can't complete a single repetition, then you need to find the right regression for your level of strength to work within that range. And if 8 reps with your own body weight happens to be a warm-up for you, then you need a progression where you add weight to the movement. The key idea here is the repetition range. A rep range doesn't just mean to complete 5 to 8 reps. A rep range is an approximation on where muscular failure should take place. In other words, you would have to perform the dip at an intensity level where you can only do between 5 to 8 reps before failing the last repetition. You don't exit the set because you get uncomfortable. You exit the set because there are indications of muscular fatigue. You can identify proximity to failure because rep speed drops to a very significant degree. You could even reach a point where the weight doesn't move for a few seconds, even if you try your hardest. At this point, weird faces and primal sounds are to be expected.
Eso es, bloquea y para atrás.
If you've never experienced this feeling before, please start with smaller, safer exercises. These are typically done with less weights because they engage less muscle mass, so they are less systemically fatiguing overall. As for the time you should rest in between sets, general guidelines could be useful, but there is nothing set in stone. For beginners, resting around 2 minutes in between sets of isolation lifts is a good start. When it comes to compound lifts, the rest period could be a bit longer. Alright, on to the workouts. Guys interested in Model B1 are going to kick things off with a big pressing movement. Dips or a barbell flat bench press are great as opening lifts. Either exercise is going to do wonders to add slabs of muscle to your upper body frame once you become much stronger at them. Look, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here, I'm only giving you what has consistently worked for most lifters over the years. Weighted dips happen to be more popular in calisthenics circles, whereas the bench press is more prevalent in gym culture and among people who are into powerlifting. Either way, you can't go wrong with any of them. Just pick the one you enjoy the most and stick to it. Your front shoulders, chest, and triceps will thank you for it. Right after the opening sets, I would typically prescribe alternating sets for the upper body. I'm a big fan of agonist-antagonist sets since these allow the lifter to complete more work with minimal muscle fatigue overlap. Lat pulldowns or the appropriate pull-up regression target the musculature responsible for a vertical pull, whereas the military press overloads the opposing function, a vertical press. When it comes to vertical pulling, you could either complete lat pulldowns in any commercial gym, or you could pick its bodyweight counterpart if you happen to train at a more minimalist type of gym or at a park, or if you simply enjoy calisthenics a little bit more. However, choosing a good pull-up regression that suits your level of strength is not an easy task. So I highly encourage you to watch this video where I go over the top 6 pull-up regressions that have tremendously helped all of my clients. As for the second lift, I already covered it in the previous episode, so I'll jump to the next section. In a similar way, both these upper body exercises have extensively been discussed in the first part of the series, so I'll only say this. Although not particularly sexy in concept, there is something magical about practicing and performing the same movement patterns multiple times per week. It gives you the chance to speed up the neurological adaptations that come about when someone completes the same task on a frequent basis. Said differently, you become more efficient in producing force in specific angles, and thus the movement itself gets easier for you. For the specific case of both the inverted row and the push-up, you might not need to add external resistance. You might only need to adjust your body angle so that you have to overcome a larger percentage of your own body weight. Based on my experience as a coach, I've only seen great results from prioritizing these two exercises at the early phases of the strength program for noobs so that they can build a solid upper body foundation. Finally, there is a section in this workout that targets the arms specifically. This is also the part where you go balls to the wall and leave no energy left in the tank. Identifying and learning to reach true muscular failure is a very valuable skill for beginners to develop, especially because then you could extrapolate the feeling of failure or proximity to failure to bigger lifts later on. And you're growing your guns at the same time, so it's a win-win situation any way you look at it. These are the first two isolation exercises of the entire workout, and in a similar antagonistic fashion, the first movement overloads elbow flexion, whereas the second overloads the opposing function, elbow extension. There are most certainly other variations you can consider for the biceps and the triceps, but in practical terms, these two are easy to set up. Besides, you don't need complexity at this point. You just need to put your head down and attack both with a newly found level of aggression. That's it. At the end, I include an alternating set of lower body isolation lifts to complement the work you did in workout A, as well as to turn this day into a truly full body session. Workout A is so designed so that you have a chance to get familiar with the big barbell compound lifts such as the squat and the hip hinge. Workout B, however, is the complete opposite. There is no much skill required in sitting on a machine and extend and bend at the knee across a guided pathway. Just pick a weight where you would fail a set between 12 to 20 reps. And then, similar to the previous alternating set of arms, you would want to go balls to the wall here. After dismounting the machine, you should have a really hard time taking the first steps to walk away. Alright, it's time to look to the female version of workout B. Straight to the point from the get-go. Let's get those glutes juicy as a hip thrust is probably the best option for you to overload hip extension with as much weight as possible. Your glutes are the biggest and the most powerful muscle group in your body. So please stop wasting your time with baby weights at the gym as many of you do. This means no kettlebells, no weighted bags, no dumbbells or plates. Simply set up a barbell or just get onto a machine and power glute a heavy ass weight up. I personally prefer my clients to practice the same squat variation twice per week at the early stages of a strength program that prioritizes free weights. So if you picked a high bar back squat in workout A, I'd like you to repeat the same lift for the sake of technique and coordination improvements. However, I also understand that adherence to a program is much more important than maximizing your efficiency in a given lift. So, if you need to try different exercises for you to stick to the program, I would encourage you to try either a leg press or a squat in a Smith machine. You're going to be targeting the same muscle groups anyway. You could tweak your feet position depending on which muscle group you like to prioritize. A higher foot stance would target the glutes and hamstrings more, whereas the lower one would focus your pressing onto your quadriceps. A wide stance, however, is a great option if you want to develop your inner thighs. Single leg exercises make a comeback right around halfway through the workout after you've done the two previous heavy hitters. On workout A, I suggested 2 unilateral movements where both feet never move. However, I think it's important to give the lifter an opportunity to face unilateral instability when she tries to move across space. This also means that one leg leaves the ground whereas the other is fixed onto the ground or on an elevated surface. For absolute beginners, usually your own body weight should be more than enough to challenge you. And be sure that your heart rate will skyrocket in no time, as leg exercises for high repetitions have a very high demand on cardiovascular capacity, especially when you have to work one leg at a time. At this point, your legs and glutes should be pretty smoked. But I'm going to suggest finishing off your lower body through an alternating set that overloads the two main functions of the knee joint. This should be simple, but it shouldn't be easy. I want you to attack the one set you have in the program like this, like your life depends on it. Pick a weight where you'd fail a set between 12 to 20 reps. You should be making weird faces, and the last rep should be very slow and strenuous. And similar to what I did for the boys, at the end of the workout I include an alternating set of upper body movements to make the female version of workout B into a full body session. Nothing else to add here that hasn't already been said. Find an angle that makes you reach muscular failure between 8 to 12 reps and run the progression scheme I suggested. Alright, I really hope you found a ton of value in today's video. If you did, check out this other video popping up on the screen right now. I think you're gonna like it. Please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to click on the bell to get notified every time a new video goes live. Stay fit, stay strong, help me raise an army of Super Saiyans all around the world. Peace.